In 1957, I was a sophomore in pre-engineering at a small junior college in Kansas City, Missouri. And that fall, Sputnik launched, and it was frightening because there was universal fear that the Russians would bomb us from space. Plus, there was a feeling of embarrassment because the Russians beat us to space with Sputnik. In the inaugural speech, John Kennedy said, "Don't ask what America can do for you, ask what you can do for America." And that influenced me a lot. And then in 1961 of May, he said, "We're going to put a man on the moon and bring him back."
Of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
In a decade. Sometimes I get emotional about these things. I just can't help it. And boy, did I want a piece of that. I graduated in February of 1962 in engineering physics, and I interviewed several places. One was NASA Langley, and I sent some information to NASA Ames. And I finally got an offer from NASA Ames. It turns out the person that was interested in me also went to Kansas City, Missouri Junior College, and he was running a branch here at Ames. And so we're working ahead, way ahead of what the other development centers are doing. And Al had a branch that was looking at the radiation heating from entry vehicles up to 11 kilometers per second. And so it was very much applicable to the Apollo missions. He also had a group that was doing aerodynamics. This is the stability of vehicles when they enter the atmospheres of planets. I came here on February the 18th, 1962, my first day at work. And a couple of days later, all the guys in the aero group, in fact, everyone was listening to the radio about John Glenn coming back from orbit. And where I come from, when you're at work, you don't listen to the radio. I couldn't figure out why these guys are listening to the radio. Well, it turns out they did the stability for the Mercury capsule, and they were very concerned that their testing was done properly. Well, turns out it was. The only issue was there was fear that the heat shield on the Mercury capsule had detached, and so they left the retro rockets on the front of it, and that led to a very fiery flight.
That was a real fireball, boy.
So my first job at Ames, February 1962, was go use the ballistic ranges at Ames. And these are ground facilities that you can fire small projectiles at very extreme speeds, up and to including 11 kilometers per second. My job then was to do these tests to try to determine the radiation from little projectiles a half an inch in diameter. And our job was to scale these up for the Apollo vehicle. So I didn't know these people at this time, but there were folks that needed this information to design the heat shield for the Apollo vehicle. This went into the design of all of the Apollo vehicles. So the definition of a contractor is a group or a business entity that does work for NASA within some kind of a framework. The contractor shall go build the Apollo vehicle, or they shall do some research. For years, Ames has had basically the same number of on-site contractors as they have civil servants. And so the contractor workforce is very important. And in fact, the contractors do very important research that's important for what the center does. And currently, part of what we do in the Space Technology Division, Space Systems and Technology now, is the International Planetary Probe thing. So every summer we go either to the States here or overseas and collaborate with people. And right now there's some pretty strong collaborations building with the German equivalent of NASA. So maybe someday we can mount something really important like going to Mars.